take a roll call. Madam Clerk?
James Lender, Tom Duffy,
Here.
Jesse Betcher,
Here.
Brian Bizanet, Stacy Hessel.
Here.
We have a quorum of 3.
Okay, and we've had certification of compliance with the open meeting law.
The meeting has been noticed to the public and news media as required by section 1924 of the Wisconsin statute.
Okay, thank you. Okay, let's take a look at the agenda. Anybody have any additions or corrections to the agenda? If not, we'll move on to public comments. Anybody here who wants to be heard? You have a chance now to be heard. Anybody here in the audience? No? Anybody on? No. Okay, we'll move on then to the minutes from last month. Anybody want to make the motion? We approve that? Stacy, you want to approve?
I will make a motion to
Okay,
approve
we'll
that.
second. Oh, James is here.
Morning.
I'll second the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Okay, very well approved. Mr. Slender, you're on. We're at paragraph 7.
Number 7?
Yep.
Surrey County Agricultural Fair Association. Anybody here from Surrey County?
No,
Who do we have online with this?
Jesse Betcher.
All right, moving on to UW Extension.
Good morning.
Morning.
So I don't have anything else extra to report to you, but I did want to give you a heads up in the 4-H realm. If you start to hear concerns from any of the 4-H volunteers or anyone in the community, just know that we work for the university and it's research and federally funded. And so the policies and procedures that we have to follow with the university might look a little different than county policies. And so I don't know if you know this, but not everyone agrees about masks and vaccines and religion and money. You know, it's those top things that you just don't talk about sometimes. But I know that there's some frustration in the 4-H world of all of the policies and procedures that we have to follow. And so we're trying to navigate and guide through all of that, and Sky has worked her tail off trying to help people understand what can be in person and what cannot be in person. And people are really creative, which is a good thing, with how they can meet and all of that. But I just wanted to give all of you a heads up in case you start to hear from your constituents that there's concern in the 4-H world. I don't think it will get to you, but I just wanted to give you a heads up in case it did.
It has.
It has, all right. And so if there are questions, we're certainly happy to try and answer them. And I know that it's just a lot to wade through right now. So anyway, I leave to that, and certainly can, if you have heard things, certainly can try and help navigate.
How many people do we have in the 4-H?
Under 100.
Is it growing or shrinking or what?
Is it one?
Is it growing or shrinking in size?
It's been about the same. I can get the numbers for you, Tom, and maybe bring those to you. Well, I might even be able to look them up as we're talking.
Yeah. Okay.
And it fluctuates, you know, it always does between, you know, what kids are eligible, and there's a lot of competition for time. And so, you know, people have to families have to make those choices of what they want to be involved in. We are not surprised that with all of the policies and procedures that we have to follow and navigate right now, that there are people who are leaving the 4-H program. There are people who are leaving other programs as well, but I don't want to pretend that it's not happening in 4-H as well.
Okay.
It's just, you know, people are tired. We are all tired of all of this. And so we're doing what we can to figure out, you know, how can we have camp safe? How can we have meetings in a safe way? How can we, you know, for people who don't want to meet in person, how are we inclusive of that, as well as people who do want to meet in person, and what risk management strategies can we put in place to help with that? And so it's tricky, as you can imagine. I don't know if you have questions in particular or things that you
No, just a few concerns about leaders resigning and or being asked to resign because of their not wearing masks or not wanting to implement that. So that's what I've conversations that I've had with some of the lead people.
I'm not aware, I know that some people have said, I'm just going to resign if this is the world right now, and these are the policies, I'm gonna resign. And, we agree with that, you know, it's like, it's not worth anyone's energy and effort to keep trying to do something that just is, not going to work. We don't want people to resign, and we hope that once this settles, that it shakes out to some new leaders and new energy and new ways of doing things, and as well as maybe welcoming people back who felt like this is just not the time to be involved in outreach. So.
Any other questions for Lori? Hearing none, moving on, number 9, Hayward Lakes Visitors and Convention Bureau.
Okay, last week was National Traveler and Tourism Week. So we kind of tooted our own horn. Destinations Wisconsin put this together for us. So it kind of just helps us get the information out to the local community so they can kind of see what we've been doing all year. So you can look at that whenever you want. I just want to touch on a couple things. We are doing, we're doing some videography right now with, we're picking different places throughout the community. And I just wanted to show you in that little box how social media, when we do a video, how much more interaction we get. So we're pretty excited about that. We've done, let's see, we're probably on 8. We finished 8 and we're doing the next 4. So we're just kind of trying to stay, you know, ahead of the game and have other communities follow what we're doing. So we're pretty excited about that. And we're using a local photographer, and he's been just great. He just gets in there and gets it done really quick. The other thing is we have one more Facebook Live. We started that because we couldn't go to sports shows. So we have one coming up on the 20th, and we're going to talk about golfing and muskie fishing. So we've got we've got a local golfing, what is Ben? Canters.
Golf Pro.
Golf Pro. And then we've got a woman muskie fisherman and a guy muskie fisherman. So it's been really popular. You can kind of see how many people are actually watching the Facebook Live. So we're going to keep that up. And we had one really cool PR last month is we were listed on a national broadcast, Good Morning America, when they were showing the weather map. They had Green Bay and Hayward, Wisconsin for the state of Wisconsin. So we were pretty excited about that. Otherwise, we've got some other good coverage. Linder's Angling Edge. I don't know if you guys know Al Linder, but his actual first fishing experience was here in Sawyer County. So he kind of recapped that in one of his episodes. So that was kind of really nice for our area. So that's kind of what's been happening. On the second page, it's just good news that it seems like people are going to travel. If you look at the study they did, 88% of people have travel plans in the next 6 months. So we're anticipating a really good summer. The other good news, which I don't know if you guys heard, but the town of Bass Lake passed room tax. And it is going to go into effect July 1st. So all the contracts are signed. So we can look forward to that. We're estimating between 20 and 30,000, but again, if you can see in here, you know, what we estimated and what comes in is way different. So and on the inside here, if you look at just the town of Hayward and the town of Hunter, how it's just going up every year because they're finding more and more private homes that are renting and they're starting to pay the room tax. So that is the exciting news in the world of tourism.
Any questions for Ms. Beckman? Hearing none, moving on to Northwest Regional Planning Commission. Do we have a report from them?
No, we do not.
They're not present.
No.
Number 11, Economic Development Corporation. Mr. Gardner.
Good morning. Well, the month of April, as you probably noticed in the news and stuff, was pretty active as far as rollout of COVID recovery programs at the federal level, and we ended up putting out emails weekly, something we don't typically do. We really only put out when there's stuff of significance for Sawyer County businesses. So we put out a range of those and got a good return rate. I mean, we get good feedback as far as what we're putting out has some value, and we attempt not to inundate inboxes. And certainly there's always a feedback loop that comes in with businesses having questions. And some of the Sawyer County specific ones were the restaurant recovery program and the shuttered venue one that hopefully, there's a good feedback for those businesses that took advantage of that. But a lot of the effort in April was centered around fundraising, making a lot of contacts to local institutions and businesses for support of our activities, and just creating and reestablishing, firming up relationships. So we are hearing from businesses and institutions out there what their needs are, and just to assure that our priorities align with that. And building our organizational capacity. Things have changed. We got signed up for PayPal, so donors can pay through debit and credit cards and those sorts of things, which is something that everybody prefers these days, more often than not. And we also got registered with the federal system for award management. There's increased potential for opportunity with the Economic Development Administration of the U.S. Department of Commerce released updated investment priorities in mid-April. And there's certainly things in there that align very firmly with Sawyer County needs and the priorities that were established in the strategic plan of the Economic Development Corporation. So we're watching that closely. There is a Small Business Administration program that's kind of down their trajectory that they're going to launch. Their website said April 30th, and that went away. But it's called Community Navigators Pilot Program, and it's really designed to assist with outreach, more locally and culturally knowledgeable outreach to businesses. The Small Business Administration supports the Small Business Development Centers, who we've been working with the last couple of years. I have a good relationship with them, and the Wisconsin SCORE, which is a volunteer mentoring program. We have relationships with them. Well, this is going to expand that network, hopefully to include organizations like ours. So we're hoping that there's going to be financial support and programmatic support trickle down to our level. So we're watching that closely, and now we're registered with and can receive federal funds when and if they send some our way. With broadband, the broadband committee certainly continues networking with the service providers in our area, and have created, trying to just create filters. What are some of the priorities matching with the needs out in the communities? And at this week's board meeting, there are some priorities under consideration. And as usual, we need it all, and we'll see what rolls out for opportunities. I did a particular emphasis to the forest products economy just because of the state of Wisconsin, the DNR, and the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation rolled out the Regional Economic Diversification Summit, which started last week. So I wanted to make sure that I had a sounding board with our local businesses, and I participated in that and reached out to the Forestry Council and been trying to get them more networked into us understanding what their needs were so we can be supportive. Some opportunities are going to be coming up. I'll answer any questions anybody might have.
Questions for Mr. Gardner? Mr. Gardner, we're going to be starting our budget discussions, and so what I'm asking for you for the next meeting is I need to see what your strategic plan is and tell me what steps are being done to meet with that strategic plan. And that could be in a report that could be made available for next month's meeting. The reason why I ask that is because this committee has the responsibility to lobby on behalf of the funds that will be allocated. It's a discretionary action, and as Mr. Hoff will definitely, I don't want to cause him to go into convulsions, but we have to start ready for the budget discussions coming up, and committee members, we better prepared if we have things that we can address or speak to regarding any kind of shortfalls or criticisms that are coming up. So if you can meet with your board, develop that report, and then bring that back for next month's meeting.
That sounds reasonable. That is on the agenda for this Thursday's meeting for the board. So we'll be positioned to give you the best information that's available.
Any questions for Mr. Gardner? Anybody else? Mr. Betcher?
Just maybe Mike, could you clarify what's that regional diversification summit? I don't think I've ever heard of that. What is that, and where was that held at?
That's something that came out of the Wisconsin Council on Forestry and the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation. It's just the beginning of an effort to, in response certainly to mill closures and other economic drivers that are maybe weakening in some places, strengthening in others for the forest economy in Wisconsin. So that it starts with this summit, which has listening sessions. There was one on the 6th. There's one coming up on the 13th as well. So they did public listening sessions, and then they did stakeholder sessions where they reached out to the major players. They're just gathering input. I think the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation will be doing more of a strategic plan later this year, and then out of that, then there'll be input and opportunities to provide support for the industry as determined as needed. I can send you some information on that if you'd like. So the session is coming up.
No, I think I'm good. That you clarified it pretty good. I just wasn't sure exactly what that was referring to. All right, thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Gardner? Hearing done, moving on to number 12, Mr. Mural.
Yes, bike and ATV trails are all open right now. Riders are out. They've been out enjoying our scenic woods out there, and we expect a very busy summer this year with it. It's looking like it's going to be another booming year like last year.
Excellent. It's probably one of the best reports we've ever gotten. Mr. Betcher, do you have any questions for Mr. Mural?
No, thank you.
Anybody else?
It's just like, could you clarify, do you want each committee to bring back a strategic plan, or just the economic development?
So usually, well, let me clarify. So let's see. Surrey County Agriculture submits its own proposal. So there's no real need for any kind of advocacy that the committee would be doing. Extension does contractual negotiations directly with Mr. Hoff, and we will usually get a review of that contract prior to, so August is when we start putting the numbers together. Hayward Lakes Convention Bureau is always well prepared, and they will present it, and they usually don't need to be prompted because it's so, just not to make fun of things, but COVID has made it so that we can talk about room tax and not go into convulsions. So I mean, Hayward Convention Bureau is usually pretty prepared when it comes to that. So we will know what our issues are going to be when we go to a full board. Northwest Regional Planning, same thing. There's we have an annual contribution that we make, and so we usually have to. Sheldon will usually put something together about what the services have been provided for the past year, and so they don't really need to be prompted. They're kind of on top of that. And then the only one really left is Economic Development Corporation, and because Mr. Gardner is still kind of, I'm feeling like he's still within his first year, and I'm anticipating that there is what did we do? Was it 25,000 last year? Mm-hmm. So the 25,000, we passed a budget that's something like $32 million for the county's operations, but we only end up fighting over like 25 grand or 30 grand or 40 grand. And so those usually draw the most criticism and the most scrutiny. And so those are the ones that we usually have to be prepared for. EDC is going to be probably one it's been controversial for the last 2 or 3 years because it was a 3-year window about 5 years ago, and we're still kind of at the onset of that. And so some people have already asked some questions about that. So what I'm trying to do is making sure that this committee because the EDC falls under our jurisdiction, I feel it's our responsibility to be ready for that. And so I'm just asking Mr. Gardner if he could just give us some talking points about what the accomplishments have been over the past year so that we can speak to that so that there's an informed budget discussion. The other entities, and so just, it's a good question that you said because, and I don't know who, Sherry was here, Sheldon was here. When I first came on the board, I called for a special meeting. We had it over at the library and I made every single entity come through and explain what their process was, what their budgeting was and everything else. And it caused, Lori was there, caused some major stress because it was like, this is the first time my first time in a while that they all had to do that. And, but it was, I felt it was my responsibility to be informed about what kind of allocations we were doing with county dollars. And so because of that early, everyone knows, all the other existing entities know to bring that information forward. And so Tom works with Mr. Keefe, and then, and so we kind of pull that together. So
Okay,
that's a really good question. Thank you for asking that. So Mr. Gardner, you can join the parade of stressed out people.
We can take the heat.
Any questions from Mr. Morocek, Mr. Betcher? Moving on to number 13, Historical Society update. Mr. Bissonette's not here. Mr. Ferguson, I want to thank you for coming in. It's been kind of a busy time on the reservation right now. I did have a conversation with Faye Smith. She is absolutely excited about the opportunity to partner with the Historical Society. She said that there's been other partnerships in the past, so it's not a brand new discussion. And so I don't know what that's going to look like. And the tribe's going through an election process right now, and so everyone's kind of sitting in place waiting to see how things are going to play out for the next probably 6 weeks. So I want to thank you for taking your time on, and if there's anything you wish to address the committee, I'll give you a moment to do that. What my goal is, and what Mr. Betcher's request was that if the county could do something to help support your operations, and so if there's something that we can do to help you with that. I know it's a volunteer organization, but there's a lot of support in the community for your organization, and there's a lot of interest on the reservation in terms of partnering up that information. And so I don't know if we have a clear plan as to what we're trying to do. I thought if we could put you in a room with Faith Smith, who is kind of like the lead on the historic preservation, we could start that process. We're going to need a little bit more time to kind of flesh that together because there's committee members here that are interested in making that relationship work. And so I don't know what to do with this next, so I'll give you an opportunity to adjust the committee if you want, and then if anybody else, and then we'll see what we can do in terms of what the next steps would look like. So Mr. Ferguson, is there anything you wish to address?
Just that we are opening this summer.
It's excellent.
We'll open in June, the first Friday in June, 2 days a week only. So museum's all ready to go. We cleaned it up. Our quarterly meetings for the general public, we're not sure about yet. We'll make that decision when we see how the summer's going.
Mr. Ferguson, I would ask if you can, do you know Mr. Hoff?
No.
So this is Tom Hoff. He is the one that does everything for the county without being recognized for it. So I would ask if you could have a conversation with him and see if there's what avenues or what areas of support that the county could potentially offer to help augment your organization. And I don't know what that is. And so Tom's pretty good at kind of troubleshooting. He can tell you what things may be available from the county that may be there. It's not a binding offer, but it would just be an initial conversation to see where we could match you up with other entities and their support to making sure that you and your organization are successful. And so this is one of the things where we want to help, but we want to make sure that we're doing it in the right way, in the correct way. I will have a conversation with Faith Smith and see if we can't get a meeting set up, and then see what that conversation can look like as well. Because I'll tell you, the tribe is interested. The tribe is interested. The Elders Association is interested. When I told them that you had some exhibits that you're asking for from assistance in terms of identifying photos, they were all over it. It's just a matter of trying to get people comfortable at having that conversation and getting everyone together. It's not you would think it's an easy conversation, but it's a lot of people with moving parts, and they're all like wondering what exactly we're trying to accomplish. And so that's what I'm going to work on over the next month. And I know Ms. Fitch has been working on that in terms of trying to get communication with people to come in. So is there anybody else, any other committee members that wish to address this issue or have anything they wish to add? Mr. Betcher?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's great news that you're opening up, after I think like 15 or 16 months, but it sounds like only 2 days a week. I'm just wondering if there's any way we can put out a word for, volunteers, even if they're, younger people, to maybe be open more than just 2 days per week. Because I know that, once school lets out and the tourists start coming in, there's going to be people looking for stuff to do 7 days a week. So I just don't know if that's a possibility to put out the word, or what avenue we would use to look for additional volunteers to be open more than 2 days a week. That's all I have.
We are also open by appointment. You can call, bring a group in, or come in yourself, we'll go there on any day.
What kind of marketing budget do you have?
Very little.
There'll be a 16 by 16 foot mural of the Historical Society on 2nd Street this month.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Part of our founders mural, so that'll be a big advertisement for the Historical Society.
Anybody else have any questions or comments for Mr. Ferguson?
I'm just wondering how, I have a increasingly healthy radar screen for grant fundings. I don't know if the organization was positioned to receive grants or.
We've tried, we've gotten a few small ones.
Well, I'll keep my, if there would be a situation in the future, they never happen fast enough or when you need it, but to even hire interns to accentuate that exposure, because the culture and the history of this county is a big part of the work that we're all doing, both economically and from a tourism standpoint. So I'll watch, and I see some hot spots. I'll be in touch.
I think what might help with us is if people in the city and county government would come see the museum. Most of them probably never been there.
Careful what you ask for. Usually when the government comes in, it's.
Hey, watch yourself.
Does somebody answer the phone down there if you call, or?
They'll return your call.
Okay.
Just 2 days. What 2 dates will you be open? What 2 days?
Friday and Saturday.
Friday and Saturday open. And is the
From
problem
noon till 4.
is the problem volunteers, or is the problem that you don't want to
It's
be open?
mainly
there?
voluntary.
Oh,
We used to be open 6 days a week at one time, and it's just not, unless the same people want to be there all the time, and it's getting harder. Like, I'm one of the younger people on the board. So,
I won't tell Casey that you said that.
Noon to 4, did you say?
So Mr. Ferguson, I'm going to ask Mr. Hoff to try to set up an appointment with you in the next couple of weeks to see if there's a way that the county is able to provide some kind of assistance, whether it's just either putting it on the website or whatever it is.
Yeah, advertising helps, to get it out there. A lot of people don't know it's there.
Any other last comments for Mr. Ferguson? Mr. Ferguson, thank you for coming in. I don't really want to obligate your time. I'm really trying to kind of put this together. We'll be able to put some better efforts to try to make this more productive. Moving on to number 14, mission statement, discussion and possible action. So last month, we put a draft mission statement and kind of a short list of duties and responsibilities for the committee. Had Rebecca looked at it, right? Legal looked at it. Yes. She made some edits and asked for some other entities to take a look at it and just edit, make sure that the grammar was correct. Other committee members, is there any, I'll open the floor up for a discussion on that. I guess what we're looking for is, if the committee is comfortable, we could consider this as the mission statement for this committee of the county board. And if so, the action would be to review this, decide what to do with it. The options would be to, scrap it, to send it back for further discussion, further revision, or to approve it and then forward to the county board for their review and possible inclusion into the county policies and procedures. Yes. So,
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Betcher.
Yeah, can I move to make a motion to approve the committee's mission statement as written?
So I have a motion for Mr. Betcher to approve the mission statement as it's presented.
I'll second that.
I have a second from Ms. Cecil. In discussion, Mr. Duffy.
I think we should add to the mission something about the ski trails and the non-motorized bike trails.
Okay.
There hasn't been a regular report. I can try to get back a rookie report monthly, but Don does a good job with the motorized, but the bike trails in the county are huge. I don't know, do they meet regularly, or the last time Kerry Ginnard was the chairman of the bike committee, but once John left us, I think that should be part of our concern.
So the motion is to present this, to move it as presented. Mr. Duffy is raising the issue of incorporating some of the recreational activities. That a way to, because that's silent sports and it's also not so silent. So I don't know what we would call that.
Well, I think there's two different. There's the silent sports and then the silent, and then they're two separate
Recreational activities.
Yeah.
Sherry brought up just leaving it general as trails.
Trails.
Yeah.
So would we put that in the statement, or you just want that under the areas of responsibility for the? Where would you, Tom, where would you want to put that in?
Well, I think reporting relationships. I don't know, but
Let's scroll back up. What's the reporting relationship? We got Snowmobile Trails Association. Smarotech, what other entities do you represent?
I'm with the Sawyer County Snowmobile ATV Alliance, so it'd be both snowmobiles and ATVs.
Would that be fair to say that that's the same group?
Yeah.
Snowmobile right here, snowmobile trails. I think you just add ATV.
Yeah, snowmobile and ATV would be. Just add that.
Also, the one above it where it says Sawyer County Visitor and Convention Bureau, it should be Hayward Lakes Visitor and Convention Bureau. It's not called Sawyer County.
Take a flogger, a lawyer for missing that.
He just listed as silent sport.
Right, because I got the first two. So, so if we could correct the Sawyer County Visitor Convention Bureau, that typo, Snowmobile and ATV Trails Association. Is that the proper name?
Sawyer County Snowmobile ATV Alliance.
Alliance. Substitute that for Snowmobile Trails Association and silent sports, and then that would be enough for, would that be
Sure.
sufficient? Because then, because the Berkey doesn't report all the time, but it does come for some, it does come at question.
I've talked to Ben, he said he's willing to give us a report monthly, and so I'll submit those monthly again, like I did last week.
Okay.
But then there's a whole group of bikers, non-motorized bikes, and all the single tracks, it's huge. I don't know who represents them.
Mr. Betcher, so what we have in front of us, do you have a chance to see the document?
I can't see it on the screen, and it's not in the, I can't find it online here at the time, but so you're discussing making those changes and then.
Right. So with the end of the section, reporting relationship, there's a typo, it's the Hayward Lakes Visitor and Convention Bureau. We would edit that, revise that. We would edit the snowmobiles and ATV Trails Alliance. And then we would add the Birkebeiner, just straight
Or
Birkebeiner.
silent sports.
Silent Sports and then the Birkebeiner.
As its own bullet point.
And then probably add the Birkebeiner as its own bullet point, and then Silent Sports as its own bullet point. And then we'll just contemplate that to be bike trails. So I mean, I don't want to make this overly complicated, but I want it to be comprehensive enough so that it's, you know, whoever comes in after us has an idea of what we're doing. We made it this far without it, which is good and bad, but we'd like to fix that going forward. So with those edits, Mr. Betcher, are you amenable to amending your motion?
Yes, if that's allowed, I would like to amend my motion to include those changes as discussed.
Ms. Hudson?
Yes, sir.
So we're going to amend the motion for Mr. Betcher with the second for Ms. Hessel to incorporate the revisions for Hayward Lakes Visitor and Convention Bureau, the revision for the, is it snowmobile and ATV, or is it
Sawyer County.
Sawyer County Snowmobile and ATV Trails Alliance? We would add the Birkebeiner and as a bullet point, and then add a bullet point for Silent Sports. And then the motion would be to approve that document with those changes and advance it for consideration to the full county board. Any other discussion on the motion? Hearing none, call for a vote. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you, everybody. Moving on now to number 15, future agenda items. Mr. Ferguson, what I'm going to ask is you have your conversation, or Mr. Hoff will reach out to you, have it, and set up a time for you to have the conversation. I would not put you on for the June agenda, but maybe come back in July once we have a chance to kind of get something together and then have a discussion with that. Because there's a couple of board members I would like to discuss, committee members I'd like to discuss in terms of developing a strategy so that we can maximize this. I agree with Mr. Betcher that I think we're entering into an opportunity where people would really want to experience the information and see what you have. And we just need to figure out how to get that out there. And I think it's too much to leave that just to you, but we also don't want to overwhelm your organization with good intentions, because we know where that takes us, right? So so we'll have you come back in July. I'll have this pitch send out an invitation for you, and we'll come back and we'll see what we have in terms of a package, like either and some kind of like a memorandum of understanding between the Kinnaman School, which is the kind of like the focus area for the tribe, and then we'll see what the county is able to actually offer you in terms of some kind of either material support or other type of support. Okay.
Good.
For the committee members, is there anything else you wish to? Is any other future agenda items? Mr. Betcher, do you have anything you wish to add?
I do not.
Cecil?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Duffy?
No.
All right, moving on to number 16, correspondence reports from conferences and meetings and other matters for discussion only.
How about the tribe election? How'd that go?
It's moving forward. The primary was completed on Saturday, and there's now 6 candidates that will be up for consideration. The June election is going to be Saturday of June 18th or 19th, whichever day that is. And there's 6 people up.
Okay.
Anything else?
Is that a good turnout? Was there?
It was a turnout. It was, yeah. It's ongoing. Mr. Betcher, do you have anything?
Nothing else for the committee.
Ms. Hessel?
No.
Mr. Duffy?
No, thank you.
All right, with that, we're adjourned, and thank you, everybody.